I'm 64 and I've been my daughter's free babysitter for 8 years. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., she'd drop the kids off. Every night at 8 p.m., she'd pick them up. Vacations? I watched them. Date nights? I was there. Sick days? Always me. Then I collapsed from a heart attack at 11:15 p.m. My neighbor called 911. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. My daughter didn't call once. When she finally showed up at my door, the first thing she said was, "Mom, I need you to watch the kids this weekend." But let me back up, because you need to understand how I became the invisible woman in my own daughter's life, valued only for the free childcare I provided. It started innocently enough 8 years ago. Jessica, my only daughter, had just given birth to Emma, my first grandchild. She'd called me from the hospital, her voice exhausted but determined. "Mom, I'm going back to work in 6 weeks. Kyle and I can't afford daycare right now. Could you help us out? Just temporarily, until we get on our feet." I'd retired from teaching just 2 months earlier. I had plans, things I wanted to do, places I wanted to visit with my late husband's life insurance money. But when I held tiny Emma in my arms, with her perfect fingers and that baby smell, how could I say no? This was my grandchild. My daughter needed me. "Of course, sweetheart," I'd said. "I'll help you." That temporary arrangement became my life for the next 8 years. The first few months weren't so bad. Jessica would drop Emma off around 9 a.m. and pick her up by 5 p.m. She'd thank me profusely, sometimes bringing me flowers or a bottle of wine. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Mom," she'd say, hugging me tight. But gradually, the hours stretched. 9 a.m. became 8:30, then 8, then 7:30. 5 p.m. became 6, then 7, then 8 p.m. "Just got caught up at work," Jessica would text. Or "Kyle and I decided to grab dinner. Hope that's okay." It was never really a question. It was always an assumption that I'd be there, that I'd accommodate, that my time was infinitely available. When Lucas was born 3 years later, I thought surely they'd get some help. 2 children under 5 was a lot for anyone, especially a woman in her early 60s. But Jessica had a different plan. "Mom, daycare for 2 kids would cost us $1,800 a month. You're already watching Emma. What's one more? What's one more?" The question haunted me as I chased a toddler and changed diapers while recovering from a sprained ankle I got from tripping over toys in my living room. My daily routine became suffocating. Wake at 5:30 a.m. to prepare breakfast before the kids arrived at 6:30 a.m. Yes, the drop-off time had crept earlier and earlier as Jessica took on more responsibilities at her marketing firm. "I have a 7 a.m. meeting," she'd say, as if that explained everything. I'd feed the children, get Emma ready for school, walk her to the bus stop 3 blocks away while pushing Lucas in a stroller. Come home, clean up breakfast dishes, play with Lucas, do educational activities I'd research on Pinterest to keep him engaged and learning. Pick up Emma at 2:45 p.m. from the bus stop. Supervise homework. Provide snacks. Break up fights. Comfort tears. Apply band-aids to scraped knees. Read stories. Play games. Make dinner for them because Jessica texted that she'd be late and could I please feed them. Bath time. Pajamas. More stories. And finally, between 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., Jessica would arrive, often with Kyle, both looking exhausted from their hard day at work. "Thanks, Mom," Jessica would say, barely looking at me as she gathered the kids' belongings. "Same time tomorrow." It was never really a question. Weekends weren't my own either. "Kyle and I need a date night," Jessica would say every Friday. So Saturday evenings were spent with the kids while they went to dinners, movies, concerts. "We're taking a vacation," they'd announce. A week in Mexico. 10 days in Europe. A cruise to Alaska. And where were Emma and Lucas during these adventures? With Grandma, of course. My friends stopped inviting me places. "You're always busy with the grandkids," they'd say. My book club continued without me. My yoga class found a new member to fill my spot. The travel group I'd planned to join after retirement went on trips I saw only through Facebook photos. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that Jessica and Kyle would eventually find daycare, or at least offer to pay me something for the roughly 60 hours a week I spent caring for their children. In 8 years, they paid me exactly $0. Oh, they gave me gifts on Mother's Day and my birthday. A scented candle. A generic card. Once, a gift certificate to a restaurant I'd have to eat at alone because I had no time for friends anymore. Jessica's career flourished. She got promotion after promotion, her salary climbing into 6 figures. They bought a bigger house, 2 new cars, renovated their kitchen, posted pictures of their expensive dinners and weekend getaways. Meanwhile, I lived on a fixed income, spending my own money on groceries for the kids, craft supplies, new clothes when they outgrew things at my house, toys to keep them entertained. When I gently suggested they might consider daycare now that they were more financially stable, Jessica looked at me with genuine confusion. Why would we do that? The kids love being with you. You're retired. It's not like you have anything else to do. That sentence. It's not like you have anything else to do. As if my life, my time, my desires were nothing. As if I existed solely to serve her family's needs. I wanted to protest. I wanted to say I had dreams too, plans too, a life that mattered beyond being an unpaid servant. But I looked at Emma and Lucas, now 8 and 5, and I couldn't imagine abandoning them. It wasn't their fault their parents took me for granted. The Tuesday it happened started like every other day. Emma and Lucas arrived at 6:30 a.m. I made them pancakes and sent Emma off to school. Lucas and I spent the morning at the park, even though my chest had felt tight and uncomfortable since waking up. I ignored it. I'd been tired lately, more than usual, but I was 64. Wasn't everyone tired at 64? By afternoon, the tightness had become pain, radiating down my left arm. I picked up Emma from the bus stop, barely able to push Lucas's stroller up the slight incline to my house. Once inside, I sat heavily on the couch, my breathing labored. "Grandma, are you okay?" Emma asked, her young face creased with worry. "I'm fine, sweetie," I lied. "Just tired." I made it through homework and dinner, though I let them have cereal because I couldn't stand at the stove. Jessica texted at 7 p.m. that she'd be late, big project deadline. Could I keep them until 9 p.m.? I didn't respond. I couldn't. The pain was crushing now, an elephant sitting on my chest. At 8:30 p.m., I managed to get both kids into pajamas. At 8:45 p.m., Jessica finally arrived. Sorry, crazy day," she called, ushering the kids out. "See you tomorrow, same time." She didn't notice my pale face or labored breathing. She didn't ask how I was. She just left. At 11:15 p.m., alone in my house, I collapsed. The pain exploded through my chest like a bomb. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. I managed to crawl toward my phone, but I couldn't reach it. It sat on the kitchen counter, impossibly far away. I don't know how long I lay on my living room floor. It felt like hours. I thought about my late husband, Robert, who died of a similar heart attack 5 years earlier. I thought about how I'd become invisible, how I'd let myself disappear into the role of convenient grandmother. I thought about Emma and Lucas, and how much I loved them. And I thought about Jessica, and how she'd taken everything I had to give without ever once asking if I needed something in return. My neighbor, Patricia, saved my life. She'd seen my lights on unusually late and heard a thump when I fell. She had a key for emergencies and found me unconscious. She called 911 at 11:42 p.m. The ambulance arrived at 11:54 p.m. I have no memory of this. I learned the times later from the hospital records. I woke up 3 days later in the ICU, tubes everywhere, machines beeping around me. A kind nurse named Sandra was checking my vitals. "Oh, thank goodness," she said when she saw my eyes open. "You're awake. You gave us quite a scare." My throat was raw from the breathing tube they'd removed that morning. "What happened?" I managed to whisper. Massive heart attack, Sandra explained gently. You needed emergency surgery. You've been here for 3 days. She hesitated. We've been trying to reach your emergency contact, your daughter Jessica. She hasn't returned our calls. Something in me cracked then, but it wasn't my heart this time. It was whatever last thread of hope I'd been holding on to, that my daughter actually cared about me as a person, not just as free childcare. Don't call her again, I said. Sandra looked surprised. Are you sure? You're going to need someone when you're discharged. Recovery from this kind of surgery takes months. I'm sure. Over the next 3 weeks in the hospital and rehabilitation facility, I had a lot of time to think. Jessica never visited. Never called. The hospital told me they'd left multiple messages. My phone, retrieved from my house by Patricia, showed 47 missed calls, but they all came after I'd been hospitalized for over 2 weeks. Patricia visited me every day. She brought me books, gossip from the neighborhood, and most importantly, honesty. Your daughter finally called me, Patricia said during one visit. Asked if I knew when you'd be home. Didn't ask how you were doing, mind you. Just when you'd be back. What did you tell her? That you nearly died and she should be ashamed of herself. Patricia squeezed my hand. Diane, honey, you know I love you, but you've let that girl walk all over you for years. Everyone in the neighborhood knows it. She was right. I'd been so focused on being needed, on being the good mother and grandmother, that I'd forgotten to be a person with my own needs and boundaries. The cardiac therapist, a woman named Dr. Chen, was more blunt. Your chart says you collapsed while caring for young children. How often were you babysitting? Every day. For 8 years. Her eyebrows rose. Every day? How many hours? 12 to 14 hours, usually. More on weekends. Mrs. Morrison, that's not babysitting. That's a full-time job. An extremely stressful full-time job. Combined with the physical demands of caring for young children at your age, the lack of rest, the constant stress, you essentially worked yourself into a heart attack. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd worked myself into a heart attack. And my daughter hadn't even noticed I was dying. Dr. Chen continued, your recovery is going to take 6 months minimum. You cannot, under any circumstances, resume that level of childcare. Your heart won't survive it. I was discharged on a Thursday morning, exactly 3 weeks after my collapse. Patricia drove me home. My house felt strange, like a place I'd visited long ago but no longer lived. The toys in my living room, the children's books, the little jackets hanging by the door, they all belonged to a version of my life I couldn't return to. Patricia had cleaned everything, bless her. But she couldn't erase the evidence of how I'd spent nearly a decade. I'd been home for less than 2 hours when the knock came. Jessica stood on my doorstep, looking harried but not particularly concerned. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't apologize for not visiting me in the hospital. She said, Mom, I need you to watch the kids this weekend. Kyle and I have a couples retreat we booked months ago, and we can't get a refund. I stared at her, this woman I'd given birth to, raised, sacrificed everything for. This woman who'd taken my last 8 years without a second thought and was now standing on my doorstep, asking for more. No, I said simply. She blinked. What? No. I can't watch the kids this weekend. Mom, I just told you, we can't get a refund. It's already paid for. Just this once, please. Jessica, I nearly died 3 weeks ago. I know, and I'm glad you're okay. But you're home now, right? You're recovered. It's just a weekend. I felt something shift inside me, a door closing that I hadn't known was open. I'm not recovered. I had major heart surgery. I'll be recovering for 6 months. And no, I cannot watch the kids. Her face flushed. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. People have heart attacks all the time and go back to normal life. Normal life, I repeated slowly. Jessica, for 8 years, I've watched your children for free. Every single day. weekends, vacations, sick days. I've spent approximately 16,000 hours caring for your kids. Do you know what that would cost if you'd paid me minimum wage? Over $200,000. She laughed, actually laughed. You're going to charge me now? For spending time with your own grandchildren? No, I said, my voice steady. I'm not going to charge you. But I'm not going to do it anymore either. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. I love Emma and Lucas with all my heart. But I can't be your free babysitter anymore. My doctor was very clear. The stress nearly killed me. Jessica's expression turned cold. The hospital called me dozens of times. I was busy. I have a job, responsibilities. I couldn't just drop everything. For 3 weeks? You couldn't find 1 hour in 3 weeks to visit your mother in the ICU. Don't make this about you being in the hospital. This is about you backing out of watching the kids when we need you. The audacity of that statement took my breath away. Jessica, I'm your mother. I almost died. And all you care about is whether I can babysit this weekend. You know what, Mom? Fine. We'll figure it out ourselves. We always do. But don't expect us to come running next time you need something. She turned and walked back to her car, parked in my driveway. I stood in my doorway, watching her drive away, and I didn't cry. I felt something else entirely, relief. Over the next few weeks, my phone stayed mostly silent. Jessica didn't call. She didn't text. Emma's birthday came and went without an invitation to the party. I sent a gift through the mail. Patricia continued to visit, bringing groceries and helping with tasks I couldn't yet manage. Other neighbors I'd barely known stopped by with meals and well wishes. My old book club invited me back. We have an opening if you're interested, they said kindly. My cardiac therapist approved me for gentle activities. I started attending a senior yoga class. I joined a watercolor painting workshop at the community center. I met with a financial advisor and realized that by not spending hundreds of dollars a month on my grandchildren, I actually had money for the first time in years. I started living again. 6 weeks after our doorstep confrontation, Jessica called. Mom, we need to talk. About what? About you watching the kids. We've tried 3 different babysitters and 2 daycare centers. Nothing works. Emma cries every morning. Lucas has had behavioral issues. They need stability. They need you. What they need, I said carefully, is parents who are present. What I need is to recover my health and live my life. So that's it? You're just abandoning your grandchildren. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm setting boundaries I should have set 8 years ago. There was a long pause. If you won't help us, then I don't see how we can maintain a relationship. The kids keep asking for you, and it's disruptive. My heart ached, but I didn't waver. Jessica, I would love to see Emma and Lucas. I would love to be their grandmother, not their unpaid daycare provider. I'd love to have them over for dinner once a week, or take them to the park on Saturday mornings. But I cannot and will not go back to the arrangement we had. Once a week. She scoffed. That's not helpful at all. Then I guess we have nothing more to discuss. She hung up. That was 4 months ago. I haven't seen my grandchildren since. It breaks my heart every day. I miss Emma's questions about everything and Lucas's infectious giggle. I miss reading them bedtime stories and watching them discover new things. But I don't miss the exhaustion. I don't miss being taken for granted. I don't miss being invisible. My health has improved remarkably. Dr. Chen says my recovery is exceeding expectations. It's amazing what happens when you remove the source of chronic stress, she told me at my last appointment. I've reconnected with old friends. I'm planning a trip to Scotland next spring, something Robert and I always dreamed of doing. I'm taking painting classes and attending book club and actually enjoying my retirement. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being selfish, if I should have just sucked it up and continued helping Jessica. But then I remember lying on my living room floor at 11:15 p.m., unable to reach my phone, thinking I was going to die alone in a house full of someone else's toys. I remember 3 weeks in the hospital without a single visit from my daughter. And I remember that moment on my doorstep when she didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't apologize, didn't show 1 ounce of concern for my well-being. She just asked me to babysit. No, I'm not being selfish. I'm finally, after 64 years of putting everyone else first, taking care of myself. Last week, I ran into Jessica at the grocery store. It was awkward, both of us standing in the produce section, pretending we hadn't seen each other until we couldn't pretend anymore. "Hi, Mom," she said stiffly. "Hi, Jessica. How are the kids?" "They're fine. Emma asks about you." My heart squeezed. I'd love to see her. Both of them. Jessica's jaw tightened. "When you're ready to actually help us, let me know." She walked away, and I stood there holding a bag of apples, realizing that to my daughter, I was only valuable for what I could do for her, never for who I was. It's a painful truth, one I wish I'd recognized years earlier. But at least now I recognize it. I'm rebuilding my life, slowly but surely. I have friends who actually care about me. I have hobbies that bring me joy. I have plans that don't revolve around someone else's needs. And yes, I have an empty spot in my heart where my grandchildren used to be. Maybe someday Emma and Lucas will be old enough to reach out on their own, to build a relationship with me that isn't dictated by their mother's demands. Until then, I'm learning to be okay with the choice I made. The choice to value my own life, my own health, my own future. Because at 64, after a near-fatal heart attack, I finally learned the most important lesson. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I'd been empty for 8 years, running on fumes, giving everything until there was nothing left. Now I'm filling my cup again. It's not selfish. It's survival. And when Jessica knocked on my door asking for that favor, telling her no was the hardest and healthiest thing I've ever done.